Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen tells her boyfriend that she'd rather date someone who's rich. My girlfriend said she would consider dating a richer dude if the opportunity arose. Been in a relationship for 4 years, talked of marriage and kids. She comes from a reasonably wealthy background, went to a private school, etc., so a lot of her friend group date within this rich bubble. I am by no means poor, but I'm not a millionaire either. Recently, she talks a lot about all of the gifts her friends' boyfriends get them, almost with a fascination. One of the girls was gifted a Tesla. As she talked about it regularly, I asked her whether she expects me to earn more money and if she would date another guy who was richer. She thought about it for a second and then said that she would have to consider it. I was a bit taken aback by the honesty. At first, I thought she was just joking, but she was being serious. When I pushed her more on this, she said that she was just being a realist, and of course everyone would consider it in the situation. However, she wouldn't act on it. She didn't think that it was a big deal, as she clearly loves me a lot, and most girls feel this way if they were being honest with their partners. I don't know how to feel about this response. On one hand, it's refreshingly honest, but on the other hand, it makes me feel like I'm just an option for her rather than a life partner. How would you deal with this? She literally told you that she's settling for you until a better one comes along. And you can bet her friends and their partners will be trying to help her with that. Dang, that sucks. 4 years in, and she's entertaining the option of leaving you if a wealthier option came along? Imagine if you told her that you would consider leaving her if a prettier girl showed interest. How would that go? I dated someone for 5 years. She came from a wealthy background, me not so much. I did work hard. When conversations about marriage started happening, she suddenly became very concerned about my financial situation, how her parents would not be really happy about this, etc. We took a break to figure out whether we were willing to make that big jump. Turns out she was not. But I know she loved me very much because she kept calling me and said why we can't just continue being lovers. So I asked her if she would be willing to marry me and just work from the ground up together. She was still hesitant, so I had to break it off. I was 30 and she was 28. She married a rich guy a year later. Just saying. Am I the jerk for cutting ex-wife's vacation short with the kids? I, 40 male, divorced my wife who's 37 about 3 years ago. We have 2 awesome kids who are 6 and 4, and I'm so grateful to her for blessing me with them. We have 50-50 custody. Brief history. Lockdown hit us hard. I had started a new and stressful job in April of 2020. My ex suffers from BPD and OCPD. The lack for control and uncertainty at this time made her very difficult to live with. She was also postpartum at this time. I was getting calls 2 minutes after work asking where I was and constantly made to feel guilty for pursuing any self-care on her time. Days of the silent treatment was the norm. I called it emotional purgatory. She was a stay-at-home mom at that time. I desperately tried to complete small tasks to lessen the load at home and put my dad hat on the second I walked through the door. I put the kids to bed, washed bottles, cleaned the kitchen, etc. She was always focusing on what I didn't help with. I begged her to go talk to a therapist and see if medication might be appropriate. I did convince her to come to marriage counseling, which we attempted for about 6 months. In those sessions, it became clear that my feelings weren't going to be heard or considered. I decided to just work on myself and my codependency. I began to work on self-esteem, setting boundaries, and not questioning my reality and my feelings. The healthier I got, seemingly the worse she got, which might sound strange to some. The night it all came undone, I was watching a playoff game outside on the patio. It was a Tuesday night. I had told her in advance that the game was important to me. I got the kids down and began watching the game. She came outside and asked if I could help her pick up around the house. We had someone coming to help with cleaning on Friday, so she wanted to tidy up. I told her, I can't help tonight because I'm watching the game, but I can help tomorrow. She slammed the patio door, came back out while the game was in overtime, and unplugged the TV. I walked out of the house and finished the game on my phone. After that, she asked me to go to a hotel and lock me out of the house. When I asked to come back, she told me to go get an apartment, which I did. A week later, she begged me to come back. I said okay, but under the advice of my therapist, I was going to keep my apartment in case she changed her mind. Over the next month, she became obsessed with me breaking my lease. Eventually, I had a moment where I knew I was done trying. The divorce process was messy. She faked a pregnancy and tried to prevent me from getting 50-50. The truth came out and she caved eventually. At times, I considered fighting for full custody, but I know the kids love their mom and it would have broken her. On to the present issue. Our decree states that we alternate spring breaks. The ex took the kids out of state the last 2 years. She asked me in February if she could take them again this year. I agreed because I didn't have plans and I feel it's important that they see family. She told me she was driving, so I agreed to more time to allow them to safely travel. I made one request: please don't take them to see my mother. She has done this on at least 2 times as she's traveled there. I don't talk to my mother because she stole $60,000 from my grandmother, among other things, and refused to even acknowledge her fault. I now care for my grandmother and moved her here. This morning, my daughter informed me that they're flying, not driving, and that ex has planned to visit with my mother and the kids. Since the divorce, there has been a very consistent pattern of her intentionally disregarding simple and reasonable requests. I'll spare you other examples. The point is, I'm fed up. She's flying tomorrow. I asked her to change her flight and return the kids to me by Wednesday at 5. This cuts her trip short by 3 days, but follows the order. So I feel a bit guilty because I know the kids will be disappointed. Logically, and based off history, I know this is the only thing she responds to, and I'm sick of being taken advantage of. What are your thoughts? I'm open to hearing that I'm being unreasonable if you feel that's the case. I desperately want to just do what's best for the kids, but this is often in conflict with enabling toxic behavior and her disregarding simple boundaries. Not the jerk. She wanted to play games, so you enforced the court order. Seems fine to me. But stop giving her these opportunities. Follow the court order. Stop giving her extra chances to cause issues. She doesn't deserve them, and she has repeatedly shown you that she will trump your boundaries. So stick to the boundaries backed by the court order. Update. Long story short, she has a long history of lying and manipulating situations to gain time and access to the kids. After processing all of the comments, I realized while I may not be the jerk, I am the problem. It was my flexibility with my ex that was enabling and emboldening her behavior. Religiously sticking to the order has been my mantra ever since. I'm grateful for the tough love in the comments which truly helped me wake up to the situation. I did ask my ex to return the kids on my scheduled parenting day. I told her that because she had lied about her travel plans, I needed her to bring the kids back early. Her response was to tell me how awful I was to do this to them. The day came, I went to the pickup spot and she didn't arrive. She refused to answer my calls and texted me screenshots of me agreeing to give her the extra time and more guilt about my behavior and weaponizing the kids, etc. I tried to contact my family law attorney, but he was on vacation. I set up an appointment with him and contacted local law enforcement. The police were not interested in my call. They told me it was a civil matter and that I needed to contact the court and judge that created the order. I felt a combination of anger and helplessness. If anyone has ever co-parented with someone with personality issues, you know exactly what feeling I'm describing. I decided to take full responsibility for my role in that matter and use it moving forward. Since April, I have followed the order and respectfully denied all of her requests for extra time and ignored the subsequent pushback and guilt tripping that inevitably comes when she doesn't get what she wants. I felt the need to update as a cautionary tale to others that are co-parenting or considering leaving a partner with personality disorders and high conflict behavior. This month, my ex informed me that she married someone from the military. I suspect she had an affair with this person during our marriage, but this is really irrelevant to the post. She emailed me asking to relocate the kids to a base literally across the country in a remote area where there are no direct flights and the travel time is over 10 hours. She has no family there and the move would take the kids from everything they know. She proposed a plan to make me the summer parent. I respectfully shared my concerns and said that she could absolutely move, but that she would have to become the summer and holiday parent. 2 weeks later, she filed a motion to relocate with the court. She hired an expensive law firm and made false allegations against me, and said that I was uninterested and uninvolved with the kids, and on several occasions I have surrendered my parenting time. She has weaponized my flexibility and genuine efforts to co-parent. I won't waste your time defending myself and will say that she never brought any of this up at our previous hearings, never any charges or police reports, and agreed to give me 50-50 parenting time. This, with the timing of her new marriage and the motion, speak volumes. At best, our relationship was unhealthy and mutually toxic. The reality is that I was being mistreated, which is the reason I filed for divorce in the first place. At times, I felt so scared, angry, and helpless, more so than any time in my life, and I've been to combat. It's not that I believe that she will be successful. Everyone I reach out to reassures me that this is a long shot. It's the more possibility that I could lose the kids and that they would have to spend so much more time with someone who is so emotionally damaging. It's been a challenge to stay grounded. I'm having nightmares and difficulty falling and staying asleep due to the anxiety. There's something so gut-wrenchingly cruel about someone who treats you this way then accuses you of being the one who mistreats them. I'm preparing in all the ways I need to fight for my kids. I have a very strong case and will show the judge how loved and cared for the kids are at Dad's house. I will let my attorney try to communicate the issues with her behavior and subtly try to let the judge know who they are truly dealing with. I mostly wanted to express gratitude to all the Redditors and share this as a cautionary tale to help others. If you're considering leaving or are co-parenting with someone with a personality disorder, please don't fall in the trap that I did. Keep your boundaries in place, stick to your order, and document high conflict behaviors so that you are prepared to protect yourself and your kids. If you believe in prayer, I would appreciate them in any form. My husband of 5 years has been fired 3 times in 1 year. I think he's the problem. I need to preface this by saying that my husband is a good person. He's a wonderful father and an amazing partner. He's a hard worker and just really wants to do good work. His problem is that he's a smart guy with lots of ideas and steps on people's toes too much. I'm looking for advice on how I need to better approach these conversations with him because I'm starting to feel myself pull away from him. Before this last crazy year, my husband worked 4 years for the same company. He jumped ship after he was looked over for a promotion and pay raise twice. We both knew he was taking on a certain amount of risk, but he landed a contract-to-hire job at a big company where there was a lot of resources available for him to succeed, so we weren't worried about it. A few months after he started complaining about his boss. He complained about how he hated being a clock puncher, complaining that his boss was never around and she did everything wrong and everyone seemed okay with the status quo. I encouraged and supported him as best I could, while encouraging him to continue to apply for other jobs and interview while he still had a job, just in case he did not want to stay there or they didn't convert him to full-time after his contract was over. Long story short, he did not keep his head down and search for other jobs, and one misstep later, his boss terminated his 1-year contract after 6 months for conflicting management style. I worked in HR. I know what that means. His next contract gig lasted him a week, and then he approached me with the idea of not going back to work full-time, but starting his own company. It would mean spending all of the money we had saved on a down payment for a house to support us and his business during this time. I made him promise he would try and seek gainful employment while trying to launch his startup. He promised and then never delivered. He did not look for any other jobs until after he was turned down for venture capital on several fronts. He landed another contract gig after we had depleted our entire savings and racked up $10,000 in credit card debt. This new job was also a 1-year contract-to-hire position. The company was going through a restructure, so all he had to do was keep his head down, do a good job, and work hard. Instead, he tried to change the way everyone did things, managed to get into an argument with a female employee who was BFFs with his boss, and sure enough, he was called into our office after only 6 months on the job and fired. I'm at my wit's end. I'm furious and angry and hurt. How hard is it to just do your job when you have 3 kids and a wife at home? How hard is it to stop assuming risk when you're already in a vulnerable position? I'm in school right now and I work 25 hours a week. We have 3 kids at home. We are also in escrow on our very first house after rebuilding our savings from last summer. Unless he starts a job next week, we're going to lose our house and we have to be out of our rental in June. Maybe this is just an anomaly. I don't know. It feels like a pattern to me. When we met, he had been laid off from his employer, and the job before that he was fired after only a few months. The only long stint he had was the 4 years at the larger company, and he complained about that constantly too. I'm at my wit's end. I came home from work today and he was eating ice cream sandwiches with 2 of our kids. I asked if he had followed up on any of his leads from last week. Nope. I tried talking to him about how he comes across to people like an arrogant know-it-all when he walks into an office and tells people that they're doing things wrong and tries to make a bunch of big changes. I tried telling him he needs to find a good balance between being a leader and being a good employee. I spent a decade in HR. This is valuable knowledge that I'm bringing to the table. It seems to fall on deaf ears. Reddit, what do? I don't know how to handle this situation anymore. I don't know if this is a pattern of behavior or if this is just a run of bad luck. How do I stop hating my husband for being perpetually unemployed and putting our family at risk because he can't get his crap together? My brother is exactly like your husband. But you know what? My brother can't get a job to save his life now. It doesn't matter that my brother is smart or a good father because he's been fired from every job he's had in the past 3 years. He's been unemployed for 9 months and he places blame everywhere but himself. He is unbearable. He's a know-it-all. He dug himself into a hole that I'm not sure he can get out of, honestly. He couldn't even rent an apartment without a co-signer because of his work history. Why hire the guy that's been fired? Why hire the guy that can only provide references that are 5 years old? You don't. Your husband needs to address his issues with a therapist. His inability to deal with authority, especially the women in authority, including you, is going to ruin him career-wise and potentially marriage-wise. Update. Unfortunately, this is a sad update. We're going on week 5 of my husband's unemployment and he still has no job offers. He has had several prospects, quite a few phone interviews, and exactly 1 in-person interview. As of right now, it's not looking like he'll be back to work even in the next few weeks, despite having promised me every week for the last 3 weeks that he would have a job offer. If he doesn't have a job offer before Wednesday, we will lose the house. To try and prepare for this, we filled out a bunch of rental applications because we have to be out of the house we're currently living in less than 3 weeks. All of our applications were denied as my husband has no income, so it looks like we will be living in someone's basement in short order. Several people mentioned me going back to work full-time, and sadly, that's not an option. My company isn't in a position to make me a full-time offer and won't be until mid-summer. I've had this conversation with my boss. My job offer is contingent upon my continued studies, so school isn't something I can just drop right now. Based on the advice I received here, as well as from a close friend, I've tried to approach him several times about what the problem could be, or how we might try a different way of figuring this out. Every single time, I was met with being accused of stressing him out, making him anxious, and eventually getting blamed for being the source of his nervousness, which he later said affected how his phone interviews went. I've asked if he's followed up regarding certain opportunities, and he tells me I'm making him anxious asking for updates so often. Yesterday, in fact, he told me that no one gets a job by following up with recruiters. I understand how recruitment works, but I have to ask myself how someone can dedicate the hours of 9 to 5 to getting a job in a highly in-demand field in an area that has jobs plenty and still comes up short. 1 in-person interview? I've asked him to forego applications on websites and reach out to these hiring managers in person, or on LinkedIn, or anything but the conventional means of being hired. Nope. Probably the most infuriating thing that has happened has been a warm lead on an opportunity. The COO of a small company reached out to him regarding a position. In the course of a month, she reached out to him 6 different times by email. He never replied to a single one of her emails, not even a "thanks so much for considering me" type thing. He told me that he didn't respond to her because he didn't have to, and that he checked them out on Glassdoor and the reviews say it's a bad place to work and that they pay below market rates, so it would be a waste of time. At this juncture, I'm not sure what to do about my marriage. I'm having a hard time focusing on work and school right now. I'm eating everything in sight, and I'm trying to pack up a house that we are going to end up putting into a storage unit, and I have had actual nervous breakdowns 3 times in the past 2 weeks. That, and the neighborhood gossips have caught wind of our hard times, and now that there is blood in the water, they're circling. I don't want to break up my family, but I don't want to be married to someone I can't rely on anymore. Even if he did save the day and get a job in the next week or so, we could be in the same position in the not-so-distant future. I've already told him I'd like to go back to counseling as soon as we have access to the funds or benefits, and he agreed. But I have no idea if this arrogant, entitled attitude towards work is something that is so deeply ingrained that it can't be worked out. I've had enough instability in my life, and I kept hoping that my marriage and our family would continue to be a source of stability, but it's not. I had more stability when I was on my own. It's a sad day when the saying, "the only person you can count on is yourself," really rings true. Anytime a post begins with some form of, "I need to preface this by saying my husband is a good person," the too long didn't read version is always that they are not. I dated a guy like this. It was always someone else's fault, even though he was the one being fired over and over. He's almost 60 now, unemployed again, no job history or savings to speak of, and still complaining. I hope she left. I've been around these kinds of guys. They think they know everything better than everybody else, and even the few times they might, it's not their place. To be honest, that attitude is going to bleed over into your relationship. He will always be right, especially since you have kids. You can't afford to be with someone who isn't stable. I've told this to friends. It doesn't matter if the job is below what you're capable of. It brings in money to pay bills. You can continue to look for your dream job, but you need an income. Money isn't going to magically appear. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay delivery and maternity expenses for the baby? About 11 months ago, I, 28 male, found out that my girlfriend, who's 24, was cheating on me. We'd been together for 4 years and lived together for almost 2. I thought we had a great relationship. We got along well, regular dates, traveled a lot together, and we had tons of plans for our future together. We'd even talked about me proposing as soon as she got her finances in order. I found out she was cheating on me with a guy who's friends with a best friend's boyfriend. I told her to buzz off and that I never wanted to see her again. She went on and moved in with that best friend and her boyfriend. During that time, she never told her family that we broke up or no longer lived together. A few weeks after she moved out, she reached out and told me that she was pregnant and that she's certain it's mine. For context, my pop passed when I was a kid and I have very little memory of him, and as a result, my family struggled and it affected me for a long time. I told her when the kid is born and is confirmed as mine, I'll take care of everything, but until then, leave me alone. A few weeks later, we met up and she swore of everything that the baby is mine and said I should help cover maternity and pregnancy stuff. I told her, keep receipts of everything you spend on pregnancy and maternity stuff. After the kid is born, if it's mine, I'll cut you a check to cover all expenses. If it's not, then we'll part ways. She agreed. She then proceeded to get a midwife and a doula for herself, both pretty expensive. She decided on a home birth. The time comes and the baby came early and there were complications. She was rushed to the hospital for an emergency C-section and the baby was kept on a special ward. The day of birth, I went to see her and a nurse took me to see the baby. 2 weeks ago, she sent me receipts for everything and it's totaled to over $40,000, and she asked for money to pay for the doula and the midwife. I told her, let's wait for the DNA results. Well, turns out I'm not the father. I told her I'm sorry, but she's on her own. She cried and told me that her and the kid are ruined if I don't step up and help them, and went on and on about how we can have a successful relationship together and raise the kid together and how she's matured and will be a good partner. I told her I have no interest in raising someone else's kid and to call on the real father. Well, that guy is broke and he's a cashier at the local store. Now everyone in her family is trying to convince me to at least pay off the $40,000 before going our separate ways. I said no. Am I the jerk for refusing to step up here? Not the jerk. She cheated and the kid isn't yours. No responsibility towards her or the baby. These people trying to convince you to drop $40,000 on a kid that's not yours are jerks. Not the jerk. You were very clear that you would not pay until there was a DNA test and then only if the kid was yours. It's not as if you told her you'd pay no matter what and then went back on it. She knew the situation from the jump and she gambled on the hope that the kid could be yours. Her gamble did not pay off. Am I the jerk for not giving my stepdaughter an inheritance? I'm 32 female. My husband passed away earlier this year. Our kids, who are 6 and 3, and I inherited his entire estate, which in total is worth almost $1 million. When he was in high school, my husband had a kid, who's now 16 female, with his girlfriend at the time. He broke up with his girlfriend once he found out that she was pregnant, saying he wasn't ready to be a father yet. He visited her maybe once every few years when he was alive. My stepdaughter and her mother are very poor. They've struggled financially ever since my husband's passing as they no longer receive child support. They're struggling to pay rent and risk getting evicted. My stepdaughter reached out to me begging for her share of the inheritance. I feel bad for her, but my husband clearly stated in his will that he wanted to leave his entire estate to me and my kids only. I barely even know my stepdaughter, and I don't think it's my responsibility to take care of her. She's furious with me, calling me a heartless gold digger, and saying that giving her money was the least I could do to make up for years of neglect. Am I the jerk? It says a lot about your character that you went along with a neglectful deadbeat and still carry that torch of negligence even after his death. I hope you don't have the nerve to delude yourself into believing that your husband was a good person and a good father. In different circumstances, he could have left your kids like he did her through no fault of their own. Depending on where you live, his will might be irrelevant. If he never paid child support, his first baby mama might be able to sue his estate for back payment, or stepdaughter herself might be entitled to a proportional share of the inheritance. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. Your husband was a major jerk. He had a kid and basically acted like she didn't exist. Of course he would not put her in his will, but you know that she's his kid. You know she's struggling. There's no reason with the amount of money you received that you could not help her out. First of all, by continuing said child support until she's 18 or finishes college. You could also put some in a trust for his stepdaughter. Do you have to help her? Legally, no. But if you can sleep at night knowing you have funds to help her but you choose not to, then you are no better than your husband was. You are absolutely not the jerk. There's an argument that your husband was a jerk for writing his will the way he did. He should probably at least have provided that his estate would make any remaining child support payments he would have made, but he didn't. The money is no longer his, it's yours. You have no obligation to use your money to do what he should have done with his, nor do you have an obligation of your own to his stepdaughter. You call her your stepdaughter, but you barely even know her. It's not as if she lived with you and you had established a parent-child relationship with her. That would be a very different situation. My daughter is demanding to use her college fund for a wedding and a house. Backstory. I, 43 female, have 4 kids. Elle, who's 22, female, Katie, who's 17, Cam, who's 15, and Isla, who's 5, and I'm also currently pregnant right now. Me and my husband, who's 50, male, started adding to college funds every month for each of our kids pretty much as soon as we found out that we were pregnant. I won't say the exact amount, but my husband has an excellent job, so it's more than most. We never told our kids because it just didn't feel necessary. Elle got pregnant when she was 16 and ended up dropping out of school. I was very disappointed, but I understood. However, I was under the impression she would return later, but she still has no plans to. The dad stuck around, and now they have one more kid who's 3 and one on the way. They're engaged, but don't plan to get married until they can afford it. They were doing okay financially for a while, but due to the market right now, they've been struggling because Elle can't find a job since she doesn't have a diploma, so we've been loaning them money for the time being. Katie is a senior and just got accepted into college. We've been setting everything up, and obviously she knows about the fund now. Katie and Elle were talking, and she was telling Elle about the school, and Elle asked how she was planning on paying for it. Katie responded, "My college fund." I was in the room while they were talking, and this made me panic. We had just planned on splitting it between the remaining 4 since we knew that they were going to college. Elle asked me if they all had one, and I wasn't going to lie, so I said yes. She got really excited and went to call her fiance and tell him the good news. I was confused and told her that she couldn't have the money. She asked me why, and I said it's for school. She got upset and left my house. The next day, I got a call from Elle. She was crying and begging me to let her have the funds so she could finally afford a down payment and maybe even a wedding. I told her she could have the money if she goes back to school, and whatever money is left over, she could use for whatever she wants to. She got super mad and started yelling at me and saying it's her money. I told her that it was my money and those were my conditions, and she hung up. Now we're being harassed by her fiance's family. They aren't as fortunate as us, calling us jerks and a lot of other names, saying it's all gonna go to waste if she doesn't use it. We're setting her up for failure, etc. Now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk because my dad said we should just give her the money as we saved it for her after all. Update. My daughter came over on Thursday and we were able to work things out. We both apologized and had a long discussion. She will be getting her GED and will be going to trade school in exchange for me giving her whatever money is left over. She hasn't decided which one yet, but it will probably be cosmetology. Her fiance's family has apologized. We also decided to pay for a small wedding ceremony and reception as a gift. I wonder if Elle would have gone back to school if she had known about the money. As a teen with a baby and no money, one concentrates on survival, not on education. If her parents had told her about the college fund, she might have made different choices, maybe getting an education and not having a second and third kid without career prospects, etc. The weirdest thing to me is that there was apparently no discussion about her daughter's future when she was 16. How is that not a conversation? Okay, you're dropping out of school and having a kid. What's your plan for the future? Dad and I have a college fund for you and would like you to go back to school. Is that so hard? Your kid is having a kid, and your reaction to her dropping out of school is, "I was very disappointed, but I understood." They clearly have financial resources. I just don't get it. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. My fiance got a face tattoo without talking to anyone. My fiance, Kim, I've just learned is completely insane. She took some days off work this week, being sick, and avoided seeing most people in person. She claimed she was feeling sick and just wanted to stay home alone. She's never given me any indication that she would lie about this in the 6 years we've been together. No one in her family had any worries because she was a stable individual and would never do anything crazy. She got a face tattoo. She took 3 sick days off of work to recover from the fact that she got a face tattoo. She told no one of this plan beforehand. I've never in our entire time together been talked to about tattoos by Kim. She showed no indication that she was even interested in getting any. I was not even the first to learn. Her sister visited her because she was worried after Kim canceled meeting with her for lunch on the 3rd day of being sick and got the grand reveal. She didn't tell anyone beforehand because she didn't want to be talked out of it and hid the results because of the swelling and the redness from getting the tattoo. She thought we would react badly and not be able to understand the artistic meaning. Kim is Asian American. She got Japanese symbols going down her forehead and under her eye. I don't know the meaning of them. I don't really know if I care to know the meaning of them. Kim's parents are Japanese immigrants. According to her sister, who was nice enough to inform me of this whole debacle, this is a big no-no in Japanese culture. Tattoos have links to crime and are looked down upon. Her parents are beside themselves, and that's a whole other set of drama that I can't even begin to approach. Kim talked to me last night about it and acted offended and started a fight with me because I told her it was absolutely insane of her to do this. She works a public-facing job. She talks face-to-face with clients in the financial industry. The minute her boss finds out, the career that she went to school for will be over. She actually didn't consider her job or family or me at all and decided a long time ago that she was going to express herself freely without any concerns. I'm worried about her now. This is not normal. She blocked my number after our fight and is ghosting me and her sister because we're trying to help. But dear Lord, this is far beyond me. I cannot comprehend what I'm even supposed to do right now. Kim's lost her mind. Is there any chance I'll be happily married to this? A woman who went and got a face tattoo and hid that fact because she knew we would all talk her out of it. Dear Lord, I really need to run, don't I? Update. The engagement is pretty much off. Kim has told me she never wants to see me again, and I woke up this morning with her ring and a box of stuff that I gave her on my porch. I don't know what's going on with her. Her sister and family have been trying their best, but nothing on their end is working. I brought up to her sister the idea this is a mental breakdown and they're looking into getting her help. It's painfully slow considering Kim is not responding to anything and is refusing to talk to anyone. I really don't know what to say here, I guess. To answer some questions, Kim is 29 and I'm 28. In the 7 years I've known her, she has never acted like this at all. She had a good relationship with her parents, and while they were a bit overbearing at times, they supported her in going to college and getting a career rather than starting a family. From what I've gathered, they probably would have been fine with any tattoo she got as long as it wasn't on her face, neck, or hands. Even then, this kind of behavior is as far from Kim as I can imagine. She just lost her mind out of nowhere. It's not like I can do anything about it either. She's blocked my number and does not want to see me. I'm just at a loss for words. One day I'm engaged, and the next I'm not, and my ex has a face tattoo. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.